Welcome to Out of Home Insider. Today's guest is Michael Mathis. Michael is the president of Atturo Tire, a tire company that doesn't just exist where the rubber meets the road, but that has built a brand around the off-road lifestyle, motorsports, and leading by example in their community, especially with veteran-related causes. I first heard of Atturo Tires from a digital billboard on my daily commute that used great imagery of that off-road lineage that positions Atturo as a proper lifestyle brand. We'll get to know Michael, how he moved from commercial insurance to president of Atturo Tire, and how they've used out-of-home to truly build a brand. Michael, thanks for being here.
Glad to. Appreciate you having us on, Tim, and getting a chance to kind of talk about what we do and kind of our belief in out-of-home.
Yeah, it's always great to hear from the brand or the advertiser's perspective, because oftentimes in out of home, we all operate in our own little silos, right? Maybe I sell billboards and, my friend over here sells wrapped vehicles, and we kind of operate in this silo. But for a brand that really you approach it completely holistically, it's going to be great to hear that perspective. As we build that story and get there, tell me about how you went from commercial insurance to running a pretty cool tire company.
Yeah, it's not exactly a normal path, but, really I grew up in the tire business. That's what my father had always worked in. And when I got out of college, I kind of wanted to try and do something different. So I spent my first 10 plus years out of college working as a commercial insurance broker, built up a decent business there, and slowly started getting involved in providing insurance for some different tire distributors, a few tire brands. And then that eventually led, to an opportunity with Tire Factory. Was looking for had some excess capacity in a particular product range and asked us if we were interested in developing a private brand around it. And so that's kind of how we got into Atturo. And that was back in 2009. Started producing our first product then, and have been just working at growing the brand globally ever since then. We've expanded from that single product range to really kind of encompass the full light truck, SUV, crossover segment. Now we're moving even into a muscle car segment and, continuing to try and build out and expand that brand.
So it sounds like there's been a bit of an evolution, and just in researching, preparing for this conversation, it looks like it was really in that more aggressive off-road specific application. Is that right? The evolution is kind of taking place from an off-road application?
Our very first product was a performance tire for SUVs and street trucks. That was our very first product. And, seeing how that SUV and light truck, pickup truck market was growing, and not just in the US, but globally, that's where all the growth is. We kind of embraced that and started to try and develop compelling products for that segment, again, with a primary focus in our product portfolio along what we refer to as the aftermarket. So we're not an original equipment provider. We do have some OE replacement type products, for consumers that are looking for that. But our main focus in the brand is developing kind of more exciting tread designs. In particularly, the strength of our off-road Trailblade series is the sidewall designs. We've really been kind of innovative in that with applying those, really, really bold designs into the tire. And then, of course, still trying to find some unique sizes, unique applications, different kind of stuff that we can do to, bring that kind of a product to different segments. For example, we're seeing a lot more of the small crossovers building into off-road type use. So, those vehicles have typically come from the factory with a pretty mild original equipment all-season type tire. So we give them something a little bit more exciting. It's a niche thing, but, certainly one we're happy to embrace.
They say the riches are in the niches, and that timing is kind of the differentiator between companies that succeed and companies that don't. And your timing was kind of perfect, right? 2009, 2010, that light truck market crossover segment really starts to take off. How important do you think that timing is, right? As we go through this interesting sort of transitional phase, how important is timing in your perspective?
Well, I think it was critical for us that, we were probably the only brand that was embracing that specific market segment purely through our first 8-9 years. There were others out there that obviously almost every tire brand makes tires for that segment, but we were the only ones that were really solely focused on it as being our claimed niche and territory, and staking that out. At the beginning, it was a tough sell. A lot of distributors found our product range too narrow to command any shelf space from them. But eventually, the market came to us as those vehicles outpaced the sales of your traditional sedans. That's the market today in new cars, in used cars, and of course that follows through in tires. So yeah, timing was critical for us there, and it's. I wish I could claim that I saw it coming, but it really was kind of opportunistic, and we stuck with it, and really kind of did carve out a name for ourselves in that segment.
Because it's kind of funny. I'm sure at the time, if someone had come to you and said, "Hey, Ford in 10 years is going to stop making cars," we would have just laughed them out of the room. We would have never thought that to be a reality. So to think that you had that challenge initially of we can't get shelf space because it's too niche, to now that's the majority of the market, it's fun to see how when you stick with it, you saw the opportunity and capitalized on the opportunity. So let's talk about, you've got this great product, right? Great supply. We've got demand now in the marketplace, but there's lots of tire companies. There's lots of choices. How did you go about building a brand so that customers would choose you?
That's a good question. And that's a challenge that we still, try to address every day, because we are still in the great big tire world. We're still just a little bit player, and we are trying to, wave our flag and make a little bit of noise. And as I like to say, we try and punch above our weight, we've tried to have some innovative mixes of marketing of where we go. We've thrown ourselves out there, over the past years. Obviously, this season, there's not a lot of racing going on at the moment, but, getting into off-road racing and, throwing our hat in the ring and competing with those big names and coming out and winning and, doing a good, solid job there. Then just our overall mix of marketing that's consumer-facing. That's been a big effort of ours, is to make our marketing mostly consumer-facing, over what we spend on dealer-directed type advertising.
So creating that demand, right? Creating a pull from the market. Yeah. And one of the things that we talk about on this show that is one of my favorite things about Out of Home is it's maybe the only medium that does allow a smaller brand to really punch above their weight and stand with the big guys. Is that kind of your thought process going into Out of Home? Or is it just an evolution of the marketing?
I think it's a critical piece of our overall marketing. Obviously we do. I still am a believer in a lot of traditional marketing, print and out of home being two of them, as opposed to obviously the new wave of digital. Everybody says, "Oh, you have to do digital." And here's the big difference for me in out of home and print. People are the only ones who see those ads, right? So,
sure.
I mean, I'm not advertising trying to attract click bots, and so I want to sell to people, and that's who looks at print advertising. That's who looks at out of home advertising, and it's the most compelling reason to be in those mediums. And in particularly for out of home, in the traditional print media guides, and they seem to be moving away from this, they would say, okay, we print this many issues, and then we claim that X number of people will look at each issue. I can tell you from my perspective, my copies of magazines don't get passed around to 5 people. So I'm always skeptical of those numbers. I'm not even going to get into the fraud that's out there in digital. We do it, but we try to be selective in it so that we try to avoid that stuff. But out of home, that's the big, broad reach. And in the last 2 years, we kind of felt like we'd done our part in the print and the digital that we do, of targeting kind of that enthusiast market for those aftermarket type products that I was describing, that was our core. And then we wanted to take the next step of doing broader brand building. And that's where really, adding in particularly billboards, came into our out of home initiative. And along with that, something that we've always done where, again, the example of off-road racing was a bit more challenging because, you don't just have to show up there, but you actually have to have good tire. So we thought we had a good tire and we went out and we proved it. But, along with those kinds of events, we've always done, a pretty healthy calendar of consumer events. Again, we're going out and seeing people.
Real people.
And that's, this weekend we're down at, one of the few shows that's still happening.
A lowrider show, right?
Down thing, right? Is the Scraping the Coast.
Yeah.
So under a normal year, we would be doing, almost every weekend of from spring through fall, we'd be out at an event somewhere in the country. Jeep shows, truck shows, all kinds of different custom vehicle shows, and getting out there, with our mobile display and going out and engaging with people. So, those components of out of home, I think are critical of, in a consumer way, doing essentially that amounts to kind of grassroots, marketing. And then in the broader, bigger brand building, brand awareness kind of level with our billboard campaigns, that's really been, I think, a critical thing for us of getting out there. And, the other good thing about both of those, that they're very geographic targeted. So we know that we had a presence in this particular area through a combination of these other efforts. And, we can then see the carry-on effect of the success that our distributors and the dealers have in those markets as a result of those efforts. So it's something that we can really monitor and see results from.
Right. And I really appreciate you talking about the boots on the ground stuff, because it's all of the sexy digital marketing buzzwords, right? It's geographically targeted. It's the right target audience, and we're creating engagement, except we're actually doing it in the real world with people who we can show a tire to. We can have an impressive wrapped vehicle behind it and create that big brand feel that you can't do with a Facebook ad. You just can't. You can't accomplish that. Do you think that that's an opportunity as we kind of move into this recession phase, if you will? Do you think that that's an opportunity for smaller players to go out and really grab market share? Is more of that grassroots type approach?
I certainly think it is, and we look at, early on, we would look at in particularly in a commercial, more of a B2B kind of an event, we would always pay attention to, well, are the big brands there? Michelin, Goodyear, Bridgestone, are those guys showing up? Because we will show up because they're going to bring in the B2B buyers. On the other hand, on consumer events, we like to show up where they aren't, because it is that opportunity for a little guy to show up and say, you know what, I don't need to have an event with 100,000 people. It's worth it for me to come out and see 20, 30, 50, and even smaller. We've certainly done smaller events too, when they fit in for us. And it absolutely is an opportunity to get out there and do exactly what you said, of engaging with those people on a one-to-one basis. There's also a power in those kinds of things where, from a consumer mindset, when I see a digital ad, I'm the only one that I know saw it. You probably didn't get served that ad because your mix of profile that they used to target me is different than yours, right?
Sure.
So you may not have ever seen that ad. So, but you know that everybody in your area is getting served that billboard, right? So if you show up and say, oh, I've got Atturo Tires, there's chances are that your neighbors and friends, they've heard of it too. And that helps to reinforce that consumer's purchase decision when they know that a broader community saw that same thing. So, I think that's something that, helps. And we see it at the consumer shows when people are, showing up and coming to us. Oh, I've got your tires on my truck. It's over here. And, they'll want to come and move and park in our, next to our booth or something. So, it builds that enthusiasm for them. It helps them feel good about their purchase. They know that we're out there with them, doing part of that lifestyle. We enjoy those kinds of shows and those events. We like seeing our stuff out there in the wild, so to speak. And, it has a reinforcing benefit that you don't get from some of these other mediums.
I think that's a really powerful takeaway. How do you measure success around your marketing in a world where we're tied to the to a click or to a particular digital Google Analytic metric? How do you measure success of the things that you're spending money on?
That's always a tough thing. It's the old adage that you're wasting half of your marketing money. You just don't know which half, right? So, we obviously do all the kind of reporting we can, as far as looking at, for example, where do we run billboards? And then to the extent we can, are we shipping tires into those areas? So we can look at that and we can see, whether there's an impact or if there's, the tough thing on marketing is not everybody needs a tire today.
Sure.
We're not advertising sandwiches where you're going to eat lunch or dinner every day, So there could be a lag. So we try to look for that and account for it a little bit. But from a anecdotal, but still in what I consider to be a powerful thing, every time we come back from a show, our marketing guys talk about how many people came up to us and said, I've never heard of Atturo. Tell me about it. So that tells us two things. Number one, if we get a whole bunch of people who came up and didn't know us, we absolutely needed to be at that event.
Makes sense.
On the flip side, if we got a lot of people who come up and, thanks for coming back this year, they remembered us. They may not have our tires, but they remembered us. They showed up and got another free shirt or whatever we were giving away that day.
Yeah.
So, those two things, even though they're anecdotal or they're not big data, they're important because they tell us that people saw it. Or, like yourself, you told me you saw the billboard, when my sister lives in St. Louis says, hey, I saw your billboard. Or, somebody from Michigan, oh, I saw your billboard. Again, those are reinforcements where we know that live humans, not, digital fantasies, are seeing our ads. And that's really a critical measurement for us, because naturally it's going to follow on that if we do a good job in the rest of our distribution and marketing, where a dealer is now going to have the confidence themselves and offer that Atturo product to the consumer. The consumer's heard that name before, they've seen it somewhere, and it's going to ring with them that, okay, this is something I'm comfortable to buy. And especially where we're not in the market as an entry-level product,
sure,
we're not going to be the cheapest offer, and that's how we're trying to position ourselves. We build a better than average tire, and we want to try and earn that price point as well. So that all plays into it.
And I think it's so important, like for myself, right? I've had, a couple of Jeep Wranglers over the years with big jacked up tires and all that stuff. And as soon as I saw the creative with the Jeep and it's, do a little bit of flexing up on the rock, I was like, I don't know who they are, but that resonated with me. Like, creative was on point. And it's now, I don't know, probably 6 months later, and I don't know how long that campaign actually ran for the market, but it stuck with me that much. I was like, okay, now I'm due for tires. Let me find Atturo and see if they make my size. And I got to just compliment you, and I don't know what this takes to get done, but it was the easiest tire purchase of my life. I went on your website. I found the tire size I had. I went to Amazon. I typed in Atturo Tire 265 7017. Here it is. Schedule your installation. Pay. It was awesome. So kudos to you.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you. And I know you mentioned before we started that you're getting the truck back soon with the tires on there. So being able to fulfill those orders is a critical thing. And that's one of the other things that Out of Home really allows us to do is we can do real geographic targeting around not where the consumer is located, but around where we know we have good dealer resources. So We need to know that we've got a distributor that's got our tires in stock in a particular metro area. We need to know that we've got retail installers that are in that area. And then we can follow on and support them with these kinds of out-of-home things, whether that's going to events that are in those areas or doing the targeted billboard type advertising in those markets.
For the business development people, and I'll issue the official out-of-home insider warning, don't start blowing up Michael or his people. We're going to ask him a question here. For the business development, account executive types, what's the best way to get in touch with a marketing team of a company your size? Do you guys use an agency? Do you do most stuff in-house? If you could give them one or two pointers as they look to rebuild the rest of their 2020, what's the key to getting in front of a business like yours and your size?
Well, I guess for us, because we're not a mega advertising spender, we go into the year with a plan, with a budget, and we have an idea of what our placements are going to be, but we've always got a little bit of a reserve for kind of the new thing, or the opportunity that comes along. So we do a mix. We have our own in-house marketing team, but then we do also use an outside agency that's responsible for both creative as well as placements. They bring placements to us, we bring some to them, and then we figure out which ones make sense for us to be in. So it's a little bit of both. As far as for an ad rep kind of a person, they could start at either point. They could start at the agency level or they could start with us, but it's going to have to pass through both.
Makes sense. That's really helpful. Don't try to circumvent one. Right, thinking you're going to pull a fast one and just get the deal.
Exactly. And we try and stick to that, because that's the reason we pay them is because we value their input. And helping to balance the mix of things that we do and all that kind of stuff is important to, we can get excited about a single thing of, hey, I can be on, the billboard outside some great venue, but does that really fit in? Do we have a dealer near there? That's something that we always look at. How's that fit in with the overall brand image and message that we're trying to convey and those kinds of things. And believe me, today, you even need to be more careful about different considerations, in those things in today's social environment. So, I guess I would say that, obviously we get pelted with offers for all kinds of different things. Just as we're sitting here, I've got, an email popping up about, TV commercials on CNN. Well, typically those big broad networks, that's not something that's going to resonate with us, so it's easy to send out the generic mass emails, but the stuff that catches our attention is stuff that's a lot more specific to us and being able to meet those kinds of needs around what still a niche and small brand in the tire world, is going after. So, hitting us with placements that are, six figures to even talk, that's usually not going to get in the door. If we grow to that because of success, that's great. But, it's got to be an offer that's compelling for our product, in order and honestly, something that's a little bit different. The majority of the billboards, for example, that we've done have been digital. And a lot of that is because of cost effectiveness. We've done a handful of the traditional billboards, that are going to stay up for a month-long placement. But those really have to be strategically placed, to have some value for us. So, again, it's people coming up with those kind of compelling offers, even to take something that's a traditional medium like a billboard, but show us how either your location or your digital version of it, some other twist on it is really gonna make it work for us.
It's really, and I'll have to go back and maybe mash the two clips up because I had a great conversation on a recent episode with the CEO of a well-known out-of-home company that is specifically in malls, Lightbox Out of Home, shout them out. But he talks about, I would rather make 10 to 12 really effective calls a day than just running through the numbers. So doing the research and understanding what's important to Michael, what's important to Atturo, looking at, right, there's so much digital proof out there that exists. You can do the research and see what have they historically done? What's the look and feel of their brand and what really makes sense as an entry point. So I think that's helpful feedback for the business development folks tuning in. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Michael, where can people find out more about Atturo, the events that that you guys are going to be at? You've got a great Instagram. Where's some places that we can find you?
Yeah, of course, our social media outlets for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, we keep those updated daily. But then, of course, just our website, atturo.com. You can find product info, where to buy. In our news feed is where we keep information about all the events that we're attending. So even those have been limited under the COVID situation, we are starting to get back out there again toward the end of the summer here. So we're looking forward to getting out and engaging more along those lines. But yeah, those are our main touch points for people.
Cool. And we'll make sure to link to all that stuff wherever you're listening. It's in the show notes, or if it's on YouTube, check the description below. Michael, before I let you go, we added a new segment. It's called Questions from Carlos Zavala. He's the marketing manager for In Motion Media. And he said, Tim, can you ask all of your guests these 3 questions? So if you're game, they're a little bit outside the context of this, but we'll have a little fun. Yeah?
Let's go.
All right.
Yeah.
If you weren't president of Atturo Tires and you could do anything that you wanted to do, what would you be doing?
Huh. I love what I do. I'd probably have another tire company.
It's a great answer.
I don't know. It's like the old Godfather line. Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in. So the rubber's in the blood, and I think I'd be around the industry somewhere. I love cars. I love trucks. I like that kind of lifestyle, and I like our product. It's fun, and so long as it is, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no, it's a fun product. It's a fun brand. I can totally understand that. What are you most excited about right now?
I think I'm excited about, this move that we're making into addressing the muscle car segment. We kind of fell into it a little bit inadvertently with consumers using our high performance tire on their muscle cars. And, we kind of got led into it by them. We didn't see it coming, but looks like it's working and that there's an opportunity there. And it's a different twist on, taking what had been this light truck SUV brand, but the crossover between those two things, the number of Mustang owners who have an F-150 or the number of Mopar guys who've got a Ram in the garage is incredible. So I think that's what really excites me. And it's another fun segment to get into of people who love their vehicles and want to do cool stuff with them. So, that's always great when you can deal with people who are enthusiasts, because that comes from us, but it also helps, build us up, that we get excited about people who are excited about their vehicles and their stuff.
Sure. And then you can have an Atturo household, and that's back to the introduction. I really mean that about the lifestyle brand. I just bought coffee, a T-shirt, and a mug from Black Rifle Coffee. I'm like, it's just coffee, but it's a brand, right? It's a brand that resonates with me.
And I love their
great coffee.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I love that you guys are going out and you're battle testing your stuff every day. You're not just, hey, we make a product and we hide behind this logo. Like, no, we make a product, and if it doesn't work, we're about to find out. So, respect to that. Are you a reader or podcast guy? Any places that you go for sources of inspiration or self-development or just entertainment in general?
No offense. I'm only a mild podcaster. Catch those infrequently, but I love the medium. It's something actually that we've started to investigate about what advertising opportunities are in podcasting. So, it's something that we're paying attention to. But yeah, I enjoy reading, obviously, a lot of industry publications. And I try and watch areas outside of our natural segment just to see what's going on there. So take, for example, the electric vehicle market. Everybody always thinks, at least years ago, everybody thought about the Prius. Sure. And then people would think about Tesla. Well, look at where the EV market's coming around to now. The Ford Mach-E is an SUV. You've got Rivian, Nikola, who are coming out with pickup trucks. Tesla's got something that's supposed to be a pickup truck. That's where the market's coming over here. So, we're going to have to pay attention to the EV market now. So, that's another exciting opportunity for us. And that's the kind of stuff I try and look at is, obviously you got to pay attention to the day-to-day so you can keep the lights on. But looking down the road, how are you gonna stay relevant as the market changes?
think that's a great takeaway and a great closing. So, Michael, thanks again for being here. It's been a lot of fun.
I appreciate you having me, and thanks most of all for being a customer.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be one. And if this has been helpful, I encourage you to share it. As always, click the subscribe button. It's down here in the corner. And if you want to get your own swag, check out oohswag.com. Use promo code INSIDER for 10% off your first order. And we'll see you guys real soon. See ya.